Jason Bridges here. Melissa Murphy will not be with us tonight. We're going to go through staff next, and I'll try to catch everybody. David Gray, he's got a live
Here.
Thanks, David. On the scene on Surfside Road. Amy Baxter.
Here.
Here. Tucker Holland.
Here.
Berto Santa Maria.
Here.
Libby Gibson.
Here.
Erica Mooney.
Present.
And I think that's it for staff. Anticipated speakers. Ann Cuspa from Housing Nantucket.
Here.
Ken Gullickson.
I'm here.
Hey there, Ken. We have Dick Webb here for the schools and Beth Hallett.
Yes, Jason, I'm here with an unstable internet connection, but I'm here.
Great.
I'm also present.
Okay. Is Diane joining us tonight?
Yes, she is. She
Okay.
will be here momentarily.
Okay, great. Todd Bowling. I see you there, Todd. Can't hear you though. Oh, sorry. Also for the school, John McMeeking. I see you there, John. Can you hear us? Can you say, you just audio wise, just say you're here, present?
Present. Thank
Thank you,
you.
John. Shane Corey from Toscana
Present.
and Bob Davis from Steamship.
Present.
And I see Rob Rainey. Rob, you're here for a roads and right-of-way application?
And Steamship also here.
Oh, and a steamship. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. If you're not presently talking, please turn off your video. Make sure you're muted. Appreciate that. Now we're going to get into the script. The open meeting of the select board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth. I think we probably got to rewrite that, Erica, maybe. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For the meeting of the select board, we're convening by video conference via Zoom as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. For Zoom meetings, please note that the meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. All supporting materials that have been provided, members of the board, are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Okay. After members, so for public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as possible. Staff will activate their chat feature. The chair and staff will do their best to address the questions and comments. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Okay. I think we're done there. There's no new business. Libby, is it announcements?
Yes. So right before we get into the announcements that are posted, we do have some that came in after the agenda was issued. And the first one is interesting. In 2020, the town achieved designation as a green community. You all probably remember that. Due to COVID, an official recognition did not take place until yesterday. We had a visit from Lisa Sullivan, the Green Communities Coordinator for the Mass Department of Energy Resources. Energy Coordinator Lauren Sinatra took her around on a tour of various energy-related projects, and she presented us with a ceremonial check in the amount of $139,340, which we received for becoming a designated community. It looks like this, our big check. And that money actually has already been used to support a new high-efficiency boiler at the high school, air source heat pumps at the visitor services building, and public electric vehicle charging stations at the airport, public safety facility, and the Washington Street parking lot. In October, the Energy Office will be applying for an additional $200,000 in Green Communities funding to support new heating and ventilation and air conditioning and lighting upgrade projects at various municipal properties. In addition to the big check, we got our official designation certificate, and we have some signs. They look like this, and they are sort of similar to the Tree City USA signs that you might see down by the steamship. And these are to be placed around the island so that people can know that we are a green community. Couple other quick things. One just came in this moment. The F Street Pier repairs out in Nantucket will start Monday, October 4th and should conclude by December 30th. David Gray, our sewer director, is on. He's going to provide a brief update on the Surfside area sewer project, which started back up on Monday. David, you want to give us a quick update? You have some footage.
Good evening, Libby. Thank you very much. Yeah, things have started back again here. The initial video I had of was the new pump station that's getting built. They're watering down all the concrete to help it cure properly. They're installing the force main that leaves the pump station now, going up to tie in into the existing pump station force main. So that work's underway. On Saturday, I met with the homeowners association people for about the traffic issues that we had last year and the use of Essex Road as a detour. We offered them a few solutions. One was offering an extra police detail. The other was offering our message board. And the third option was to station some of our vehicles up there at night for the first 4 hours from 4 to 8 p.m. And that's what we've been doing. We've had the operators have been standing outside, just talking to residents and just keeping everyone going slow. And I did receive some feedback from a few of the homeowner association folks, and they were very happy. It's working extremely well. And I think we have solved that problem that we had last year with the detours. Other than that, I think that's all I got, Libby.
Fantastic, David. Thank you for that footage. It's quite interesting. I did have an announcement about the Island Fair, but I think that Mary Longacre is going to come on and give it under public comment instead. And other than the other announcements that are listed on the agenda, that is it for announcements.
Thank you, Libby. There's no follow-up comment for prior select board meetings, but we do have some coming up the next couple of weeks. Sometimes it takes us just a little longer to gather information. So up next, the public. Is there any public comment that's not on this agenda? Got two hands up. So Mary Longacre, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Jason. I'm speaking on behalf of the Island Fair Committee. We are not able to organize the Island Fair at Tom Nevers for 2 days with all of the events, but we do want to keep the spirit of the Island Fair alive. And we have been able to organize what we're calling a Fall Fun Day for Saturday, October 2nd. We're holding that in conjunction with the Sustainable Nantucket Farmers and Artisans Market. We'll be occupying a little bit of space on North Union. Some of that space is donated by the Gaslight. We're using their platform. And the Athenaeum is also allowing us to use their garden for some kids' games. We are also working with the Historical Association. They will be offering pumpkin painting in their side yard on North Water Street. And we will have events from Nisha. We'll have the dog show in the Mariah Mitchell front yard over on Washington Street. Mariah Mitchell themselves will also be doing a little bit. The Artists Association will have a art project grab bag takeaway from their gallery at 19 Washington Street. The American Legion is going to be selling lunch. So we are hoping that people will enjoy the spirit of the fall fair, even though we can't provide the full experience out at Tom Nevers this year. And we're looking forward to welcoming people on Saturday, October 2nd. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mary. Any questions from the board? Sounds great. Great way to adapt, Mary, and all your team.
Thank you.
Together.
Yeah, Jason, I was just going to say the same thing. I think it's a great way to keep the spirit alive and to, you know, you may find, Mary, that this is really popular and move more this direction. I think it's great.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Okay, can we go to Mr. Spruce?
Thank you, Chairman Bridges. I'm here for 2 points. The first one, I would like to ask for the board's support with what Julian Sear and Dylan Fernandez are proposing as a state law known as Chapter 19, which is public access and private tidelands. They're trying to change the wording from fishing, fouling, and navigating and adding the word recreation. I think I don't have to get into the some of the issues we've had on the island, but I think this would be a great thing to support, and I would ask the board to put it on an agenda item in the future and give their support. And then that's the Nantucket Coastal Conservancy would also be willing to help. I'm speaking on behalf of them on that point, and they'd be willing to help out with any research or anything you needed for that. And then the other hat I'm going to put on is the Marine Mammal Alliance on Nantucket. We've been very busy over the last, I talked to you guys in the fall. I have some updated numbers from May through May that we have had over 200 calls. We have over 9 disentanglements, 5 transfers to off-island facilities. And this is only through May. We've actually had more since then, but we haven't crunched all the numbers. We've found some mortalities that were very unusual and sent on to further investigation to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And one other thing I wanted to mention is that there was a dolphin that was swimming along most of the South Shore beaches from my comment to Surfside and ended up beaching over on Nobodere, and we put it out of the water and it passed away while we were there, and I think we gave it some comfort by putting some towels and stuff on it. But then through some miscommunication and the dolphin stayed on the beach for a long time and was I felt it was a real eyesore. We did meet with Libby and the chief of police and the harbor master, and we're going to come up with some memorandum of understanding. I appreciated all their time on that, and just wanted to update the board that in the future we're probably going to present you some kind of memorandum of understanding, so something like that doesn't happen in the future, where an animal that is just left on the beach, a very public beach, to decay. At the very least, we should take it off the beach and dispose of it properly. Thank you very much for your time. I know you guys are very busy. I'll let you get back to the regular stuff on the agenda. And thanks again to you and the board.
Thank you, Spruce. Thank you to the Marine Mammal Alliance for all the work that you guys do. Thank you.
Yeah, Jason, Matt again.
Sure.
Just a quick comment to Bert. I think just so he knows and the public knows, we are in regular contact with Dylan and Julian, and they know that we are here to support them in any way possible on the beach issue. Just, I don't want people to think that that isn't something we're involved with. So, because we are.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, I don't see any more hands up for public comments. We can move on to the COVID-19 update, Public Health Department.
There we go. Good afternoon. Not a lot to report. One of the things that has been going very well is that we have our positivity rate now approximately 3.6% over the course of the last week, which is very good. We are currently the only county in the state of Massachusetts that is not considered in the red zone for, according to the CDC. We moved out of the red zone on Thursday. So that is very good news as we move forward. Really what it comes, we are continuing with the vaccination clinics on Thursday evenings from 4:30 to 6:30 and on Sundays from noon to 2. But we will probably be scaling that back to about once a week within the next few weeks, probably starting in October, as demand has dropped to only about 50 people a day. So about 20, 25 people per hour or so. So which is kind of expected until we get the youth approval from the FDA. As far as the third doses are going, if you do feel you qualify for a third dose, please contact this office and ask for Heather. She will be able to get in contact with you and we can schedule third doses. We are asking that people who are immunocompromised and qualify for the third dose not to show up to the clinic, the drive-through clinic, because you may be exposed to people who haven't been vaccinated at all. So we are asking that please contact us so that we can schedule your third dose. And the guidance on booster shots is expected within the next week or two from the FDA. So we should be able to give that information out as soon as we can. And then lastly, we're just still monitoring the two new variants. Luckily, knock on wood, we still don't have it. We still don't have any cases here. They are still isolated in other countries, but we have seen the occasional isolated case in the United States. And as far as I did get questioned about the Halloween parade that is currently still on from our case, and we're probably, barring any major outbreaks, because it's outside, because it's minimal contact, it is a very low risk event. So as of right now, that is still a go. So for anyone watching that was still wondering about Halloween next month, that is still a go so far. And with that, I'll take questions. It was nice, short, and simple today. Yes.
Thanks, Roberto. Christy?
Thank you, Roberto. It's really good to hear that our cases have gone down significantly. And I know that P-Town has moved their mask order to an advisory, and I was wondering if our Board of Health is considering a similar approach.
Honestly, I don't know. I want to see what the BioBot report comes out tomorrow before tomorrow's Board of Health meeting. If hopefully that does show up on time. If it does show up and it shows any sort of spiking or things like that, we'll probably recommend maintaining it. But I will also be, I will entertain. we should at least entertain either moving to an advisory or at the very least adding exceptions to the order. So we'll be discussing that tomorrow at 4.
Thanks, Roberto. I had a question. To get out of the red zone is difficult for us because the ratio we're using or the math is still the old census, right, at 11,000. So for us to get out of the red zone is really good. Correct.
That's a big one because they're still doing our calculations based on 11,500 people or so. So not only is that number wrong, but we've also been having all our summer visitors. So with all the cases being so low, that shows that it's the seasonal people of Nantucket have really paid attention, and we're really paying attention to both vaccination and the order and the mask orders.
I also wanted to just applaud everyone, all the volunteers, and you, Roberto, and all your staff, Jericho and Heather, everybody else who's been doing these vaccinations on Sundays, during the week. I stopped by on Sunday and there's a lot of people there. You guys are working on Sundays. And so people need to know that you guys are there. And it's really, I just applaud you all for doing that.
Yeah, everyone who is there, I'll definitely pass it forward. Everyone who is there on the Thursday evenings, Sunday afternoons, we're there on top of our full-time jobs. Mm-hmm. That is after our hours. Yep. And with all the volunteers out there, without the volunteers, we don't have a clinic. So we really appreciate it. And we really appreciate people paying attention to the orders because we're exhausted. And it's with people paying attention to when we issue the mask advisories, mask orders, we really appreciate it because that that helps us do the rest of our jobs. PFAS, inspections, other vector-borne diseases, all the other things that fall on top of our department. That's on top, that COVID is on top of all that. This was already a stressful full-time job before COVID. So we really applaud the volunteers. The hospital has been really helpful. We couldn't have done it without everyone, and we're still in the midst of it.
Thank you, Roberto. Any other comments from the board before I go to the public? Okay, we go to Dahlia Rodriguez.
She's still muted.
Dahlia, you're muted if you're talking. Erica, is that? Oh, there you go. Still can't hear you, Dahlia. Wait one more minute. You had your hand up for a while. Technical difficulties, maybe? Okay, while we're waiting for Dahlia, we go to Brooke Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I went off island yesterday and it really made me realize how much safer I feel on Nantucket with a mask mandate. I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you, Brooke. Okay, I don't see Dahlia, your hand up anymore. If you do end up jumping in a couple minutes, if there's technical difficulty, you can pop back on, Dahlia. Okay, anything else for COVID, anybody? Board members? Good?
Yeah, I'll hang around for a bit in case she can come back.
Okay, thank you, Roberto.
Thank you.
Okay, there's no new business that I know of. Approval of Treasury warrants for September 15th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor by roll call. Don Holgate.
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella.
Aye.
Matt Fee.
Aye.
Jason Bridges, aye. That passes 4-0. All right, next up, we reports of the Nantucket Public School campus-wide master plan update. We have Dick Webb, Superintendent Beth Hallett, and maybe Diane O'Neill. She's coming on to present. I'm not going to take any public comment on this because a lot of it's going to go to the school, and we can, Dick and Beth, you can always explain how to get in touch. And there's going to be more, outreach and opportunities or a road show. So this is just for strictly a presentation. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, Jason. And I hope everyone can hear me. I apologize. I've got a thunderstorm moving through with an unstable internet connection. So John, Will, and Beth can ably command the ship if I lose connection here. Wanted to just take 10 or 15 minutes and give the board an update on the campus planning. Erica, if you could move to the next slide. We want to take, again, about 10 or 15 minutes and work through, give you an idea of the process and the project. Screen has frozen. So if you could move to the overall campus master plan. This is an effort that has been really undertaken over the last 8 years. This is the result of all of this planning. And Erica, the next slide, if you could, please. The focus now for the board to consider, and that we're working with the campus planning committee on, are really the improvements at the lower right and the upper left portions of this image. The lower right portion is the Bacchus Lane baseball field and tennis court improvements that I'll talk in a little bit greater detail on. And on the upper left side of your image are the existing football field and baseball field area immediately, to the east of the existing high school. Those are the areas that we're focusing on this phase 9 of the project. Eric, if I could have the next slide. It really just illustrates the effort that has been ongoing through the years, building new most recently new pool parking areas, building playgrounds, certainly building the intermediate school, all of the cross-campus drive connections and improvements that were associated with the intermediate school. We have started again with the playground and some earthwork and retaining walls over in the Bacchus Lane area to prepare for phase 9, which again would include the relocated varsity baseball field and tennis courts over along Bacchus Lane and the track and field projects immediately adjacent to the high school. Erica, the next slide, please. I won't get into all of the points here, but I think in summary, Nantucket High School, the public schools enjoy a very high participation rate in athletics. Understandably, with limited numbers of fields, all of the fields being natural grass, it puts an incredible pressure on the fields in terms of maintaining a safe and quality athletic field environment. We always, as the school system continues to grow, and certainly the track and grandstand components are in need of attention. From our best research, we are the town of Nantucket Public High School. This is the last public high school that has a cinder track. And again, accessibility is not code compliant on the grandstand. So these are two areas that we really want to focus on. Erica, next slide. And I think it's frozen on my screen. So again, the phase 9 improvements focus on the area immediately behind the high school and the Bacchus Lane. And I'm just going to quickly touch on each of the key components within that, starting with the track and field project. The next slide, Erica, thank you. It's a code compliant 400-meter track facility that again is a combination of 6 distance lanes and 8 sprint lanes. That's a very common and popular configuration for public high school tracks. We are proposing inboard of this track oval to provide a new synthetic turf surface. It is a multi-purpose surface dimensionally that accommodates really a wide variety of sports, including football, soccer, field hockey, and lacrosse. I think programmatically, the intent is to maintain the use of the field primarily in the fall for football and in the spring for lacrosse. But again, it dimensionally allows the athletic department a lot of flexibility in terms of programming sport play on the field. One of the key improvements in this track, oval, and field area is also to improve the lighting. The next slide, please, Erica. The current lighting, the light poles are about 65 feet tall, but the lights are actually mounted between about the 40-foot height and the 60-foot height. Our proposed lighting plan improves the lighting, not as much in a quantity. We're maintaining essentially the same 30-foot candle level, but we very definitely want to improve the uniformity index of the lights. This image on the on the top of the slide is our field, and you can see, you can kind of see some of those hot spots and dark spots in the field. What we're shooting for is the image in the lower right, where there's a much more improved uniformity. So our current uniformity index is about 9 to 1. We want to bring it down to about 3 to 1, a much safer and much more improved lighting program for the field itself. Along with that, the poles are proposed to be at an 80-foot height. The image on the lower left illustrates some of the conditions of spill light and glare. Those are the two light characteristics that we want to also reduce. by going to the 80-foot tall pole, we will dramatically reduce the spill and glare that moves beyond the track and field itself. Erica, if I could have the next slide. Also, again, at the north end of the facility is a proposed new grandstand system. It is designed as a top and bottom loaded grandstand system. So we actually provide accessibility at both the upper level and at the lower level. And this section begins to illustrate that to you. The press box is fully accessible from that upper level. So we are not, the project does not have to absorb the cost of an elevator or a lift to provide the accessible means of access to the press box itself. This will involve some earthwork, some shaping. So in other words, we're going to create a more substantial mound or berm than what currently exists out there now. But again, it provides that that accessibility at both the top and bottom levels to the grandstand facility. Next slide, Erica. Immediately to the north of the track and field project is a second synthetic turf field, again proposed as multi-sport playing dimension, but primarily being considered for field hockey play and lacrosse play. So to that end, to that sense, the design is that the player areas would be located closest to Sparks Avenue, and the spectator area would be closer to the central parking area and the other existing track and field. Next slide, Erica. I wanted to take just a brief pause here and talk a little bit about synthetic turf. We are looking at, or we're proposing a system which is really a superior synthetic turf system. It's an upgrade from what you see at many institutions. Some of the components of the system, the turf itself is proposed to be a turf system similar to a Greenfields product, which has a woven backing. It's important that is important as we consider the sustainability and recyclability of this turf product. We are proposing shock attenuation pads underneath both synthetic turf fields, and proposing an organic infill type of material. The components that we are considering are very similar to what is being considered now on the Vineyard for their synthetic turf field. To that end, we know and understand that the PFAS has been a concern of the community, and certainly is a concern of any project in the community. And we are working with Dr. Laura Green, a toxicologist, who is working with us on, who's an expert in terms of the PFAS issues. And we're working closely with her on this project. Unfortunately, she could not be on the presentation tonight because Yom Kippur has started and at sundown tonight. So, but she is available. So if we do have questions as we move forward, as Jason alluded to, ongoing discussions through the fall, Dr. Green is certainly available to answer questions and meet with the board certainly at your pleasure. As I mentioned, the turf is proposed as a woven back system, which is an upgrade from many of the different typical turf products. But the key is it doesn't have urethane, which allows it to provide that recyclability and sustainability. Very important to us, the project will include all of the maintenance and grooming equipment that are required to maintain these fields. These synthetic turf fields are not no maintenance. They are lower maintenance than a natural grass field, but they are not no maintenance. And so the equipment, the training, and we actually require the contractors before they leave, before the project is completed, they actually have to video the training so that public school staff, future public school staff, can benefit from that and learn how to groom and properly maintain these synthetic turf fields. Next slide, Erica. I glossed over between the track oval and the synthetic turf field number 2 is a drop-off parking area, and also closer between the track and First Way, there is a small visitor parking area that will also allow emergency access immediately onto the field. These 2 parking areas in total provide a net increase of 62 parking spaces to the school campus, and that is something, again, that is desperately needed on the campus. Next slide, please. Just quickly talking through the benefits of the athletic improvements. Again, it's a lot of it has to do with the growth of the fields, the growth of the program, the use of synthetic turf to help meet that. It's important to understand that natural grass fields, even the best designed, the best constructed, the best maintained natural grass fields really have a threshold. They can only accept a certain amount of play. Synthetic turf fields move you beyond that threshold and allow you much more, nearly unlimited amount of play. So that is one of the key program elements. And certainly, as we've learned this past 18 months and listening to Roberto here in the meeting and all your meetings regarding COVID, not to, or certainly understand and realize the social and educational benefits of providing safe outdoor physical education spaces. Before we get to the next slide, I just quickly, there's one slide that I think we oopsed on in getting to the PowerPoint presentation. Just talking quickly about Bacchus baseball and tennis. The proposal is, these are the projects that have, as you have heard, we have been bidding this past year, unfortunately unsuccessfully. We bid them together, we bid them separate. And the feedback we are receiving from the contractors is just that the project scopes are just not large enough to be essentially real efficient with some bid numbers. And the feedback from the contractors is, if everything were to be bundled together, then you begin to create some efficiencies and don't have to mobilize and address general conditions and all the other costs for just the tennis court project or the baseball project. So the intent is now to take the funds that are in place currently from this past year and transfer them into this, essentially this larger single project. And if I could have the next slide, Erica. And this slide again just begins to illustrate the different components to the project. The project at this point is estimated at $17.5 million, but again, there is 1.1 currently funded. So the request that we have been discussing with capital planning this past month is a number of $16,400,000. I think I do want to stress, as we evaluate this project, these are project costs. These are not construction costs. So they include the final design and engineering. They include all of the testing, all of the inspection, the escalation, all the contingencies, all those components are included in this $16,400,000 request to you and to capital planning. Next slide, please. Just a quick update on schedule. We have been meeting regularly with the capital, with the community, the campus-wide planning committee. Actually, I'll be on island tomorrow night for another committee meeting. And we have started certainly the requests to you all for the funding. The hope is that the intent is that we would finish the design this fall we would bid the project in January and February of 2022. The reason we want to do that is historically that is the most that's the best time to bid some of this type of work, when contractors are beginning to line up their spring, summer, and fall 22 work. So we want to take advantage of the optimum bidding period in January and February, bid the work, hopefully present a bid number formally to ATM 22 in May, and then construction would begin as soon as funds are available in July. It will take, we've had some discussions with the athletic department. It will have to be staged. I don't want to say the word phased, but it will be staged where the initial focus will be on the track and football field and lights and grandstand, shifting then over to the second synthetic turf field, all the while then building back as baseball and tennis, which in one sense are easier because they don't impact existing recreation space. But the intent is that football, the track and field would be ready by fall. Field 2 might not be ready till later in the fall, but then certainly back as baseball and tennis would be available for use in spring of 23. I think that pretty much concludes my thoughts, and I certainly want to open it up and help answer any questions you have at this point.
Any questions for Dick, or Diane, or Beth, or John from the board? Comments? Matt? Oh, Matt and Christy?
No, Christy, you can go first.
I just had more of a comment that, the fields have needed to be redone since I was in high school. So I'm really glad to see that this is going through, and I'm really glad to see all the public outreach. You guys started early, and I'm glad that you guys were able to come here and share it with us as well. So thank you.
You're quite welcome. And again, Christy, this is, yes, we are working with a lot of communication with a lot of groups through the fall here. But I certainly, as this evolves in this fall, again, I want to emphasize, if there's, as plans develop, and if there's need to have Dr. Green meet with you all, we would be glad to do that. Please just let us know.
Thank you.
Matt?
Yeah, mine is just, I guess, a comment. Last I knew, we didn't have a track team. And my daughter was a soccer player. I was a coach of, here on island and off island. Complexes that have a track like that in between the seating are huge. And I think we'll lose part of what is great about going to see, Whalers football game or some other game there, is you're really pretty close to the action. And I'm worried, I would love not to see a track there. I'd love to see a specific stadium for sports. And, when you're in those stands, or when you're at those events, you're way away from the action. So I think it's something we have to think about. It's people love going to the games here, and we get more attendance than you see at most places, and there's not a lot of us out here. And so I hope that the school committee, I know there's people there that care about it. I hope they look at that and really take a hard, think about the atmosphere and think about sort of what we have, and try not to lose that. The other thing, and if we took the parking out, you save, $5 million, $6 million bucks. You're getting this voted for 10 million to start. If we need it, that's, if you're adding it, adding a track team, maybe there's someone else for it. If it's for recreation, maybe you make a path. I've seen people run paths around the outside of a complex and still have a sprint field. There may be a way to do it and still keep this, sort of sport specific. But that's just my 2 cents.
Matt, if I could respond just a couple points. I mean, they're very good points, and you're exactly right. When the track surrounds the field and the grandstand is on the outside of the track, the grandstand is admittedly a little further away from the field itself. And you're exactly correct. What we have tried to do though is, and we are improving the line of sight to the field. So what we're trying to do is raise that grandstand facility, not necessarily, not as much in the first row, but some of the upper rows are at a higher and a better line of sight onto the field to exactly address the condition you're talking about, that you have now a track inside of that. One of the other points I'd like to make is that we had specific discussions with the athletic department, the previous athletic director and the new current athletic director, questioning would the introduction of a track and potential track team impact other teams, the participation in other sports? The answer has from both Chris and Travis is no. And that is really typical with what we see in other facilities where track is being more of an individual sport, attracts students that wouldn't necessarily participate in a football or a soccer or a lacrosse team. So it's really, we are looking at the track as a venue for the school and certainly for the community, and with the potential of a track program that would be inclusive of more students, not at the expense of taking students away from some of the other sports. So I just wanted to clarify that discussion that to the board that we've had with, again, with both Chris and with Travis.
Thank you, Dick. Anybody else? Beth, go ahead. Dawn.
Thank you. I just want to echo what Dick has been saying. We've had a lot of discussion about offering a track team for our students who perhaps may not be more team-oriented athletes. They may be more individualized sport athletes. And I truly do think that we will have a certain group of athletes that we will be able to cater to. And I will tell you that, you know, our cross-country team is definitely looking for and really appreciating the opportunity to have a track as they grow and as they move forward as well. So I do hope that we can keep that and consider at least having that as part of the plan. So that's all. Thanks.
Thanks, Beth. Dawn?
One thing I wanted to raise while we're talking about all of this, and I think that the planning that you've done so far is really fantastic, but there's been a lot of community discussion starting about sort of how bad our weather is 6 months out of the year, and whether there might be more thought to enclosing anything, whether it's bubbling tennis or an indoor soccer field. And it struck me, my son is actually traveling twice a week to play basketball at the Hyannis Youth Center for fall ball. And they have an indoor track above the basketball courts, which is really nice. So just just some thoughts of, you know, whether anything could be incorporated that brings athletics indoors in the winter, or more athletic opportunities indoors.
Yeah, Dawn, I think it is something that the committee very seriously looked at, be it enclosing tennis or at one point the consideration was, should we be enclosing field number 2 closest to Sparks Avenue? I think I won't speak for the committee, but I think the general feeling was the focus needed to be on the basics and the field and the track, and that was, this number is is already quite a significant number. And so anything we do from an enclosure perspective just continues to push that number further north. And that's not saying we can't or we shouldn't do it, but I think I'd characterize the committee as their feeling is, let's focus on the fields and the track and bringing some things into code compliance. And that's the most important component. I will also say, though, that one of the benefits of a synthetic turf field is it does give you some extended playing season. You can play on it much earlier. You can plow the snow on these so that you can play on it really year round if you want. But even if you don't plow snow, you're going to play on that field in a much safer environment, literally in February and March, than many times that you can't get onto the fields, onto the natural grass fields. So, and the same holds true in the fall. So while not an enclosure, Dawn, it at least gives us a little better season than we might have with a natural grass field. So we're not all the way there, but we're bettering the condition from the natural grass situation.
Thank you, Dick. Diane?
And I would just like to add to that at some point we could certainly enclose one of the fields. We've talked about that committee-wide. Later on down the road, if we see the need, we can certainly go back and enclose one of the fields. It really was all about getting these fields in place for our kids. I think every single committee member has reiterated that the most important thing is getting the fields done. We talked about lighting the second field and backed away from that. We talked about so many different things, but I really want to stress that we could go back later on and enclose one of the fields if the need presented itself, that greatly.
Thank you, Diane. Just had a couple of comments. I did attend, Dick was here a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and did a longer presentation at the school, and I attended, and it was, hour and a half. And I just wanted to say, for those who want to get more in detail, it's they've really done their homework when it comes to PFAS, environment, the turf. I mean, it was a 40-minute discussion on the ins and outs of the turf and technology, and so I appreciate that they're really getting into it. Another comment is I appreciate also the lighting considerations for the community and the dark skies. You might be able to get it dark skies compliant for not a lot of extra money, 5 or 10 grand compliant. It seems like you guys are already there. So I would suggest working with the Massachusetts Dark Skies. You might not do anything differently than you're already doing. That would be really nice. And then I remember speaking back when a lot of us were trying to get the cross country team up and running, 8, 9 maybe years ago, talking to Chris Morey about the track and a track team as well. And he said it's in the plans. So my point of that is, like, this has been planned for a long time. This just didn't come around, a year ago. And so I'm glad it's happening, because I think a track team, you guys put a lot of thought into it, but it's also an easy entry access. There's not a lot of equipment, like families who maybe don't have a lot of money can do track, right? They don't have to subsidize a lot. It's just shoes. And it's an individual sport. So I'm all for that. So I just wanted to throw those comments in. Is there anything else from board members from the school? Okay, Dick, or anybody else, if anybody wants to put in their comments to find out more, where do they go? What do they do?
Diane, do you want to answer that one?
Sure. They can certainly email me at the school. I'm happy to respond to any and all questions. We are meeting as a committee tomorrow night in the intermediate school cafeteria. Anyone who has questions is certainly welcome to come. So please email me, ask questions, give me a call. I have an open door policy, and I'd be happy to answer questions and resolve any issues.
Thank you, Diane. Any last words? Okay. Thank you for coming on. Thank you, Beth. Dick, Diane. Thank you, John. Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you, board. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we're moving on to citizen department requests. The first one up is, let me move my screen here. Toscana, request for waiver of town noise bylaw to offload barges at Steamship Authority Wharf between 10:30 p.m. and 7:30 a.m. And we have, I believe, Shane here from Toscana, and also Bob Davis and Rob Rainey from the steamship. Shane, do you want to go ahead?
Thank you. Similar requests to what we made last year. We're just having an issue again with getting our barge to the dock at low tide. That's a big safety concern for us. So we're requesting a waiver of that noise bylaw again until this problem can be addressed.
Just some quick questions, Shane. What would this be twice a week, every other week, 6 times a week? What's the? I know it's connected to the tides, but can you give us a sense of what it would look like? And then I also want to say, how long is this in perpetuity? Is it for 2 months? And maybe that's where Bob can come in and talk about permits and dredging.
Okay, so if we just look at the rest of this month, we have one scheduled tomorrow. Low tides at 2:30 a.m. So that's not going to pose a problem. Looking into next week, we have a barge booked on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. On Tuesday, the 21st, low tide is at 6:45 a.m. So that does pose a problem. That day, we would be proposing to start the offload at 4:45 a.m., approximately 2 hours before the low tide. Thursday, similar problem with a low tide at 8 a.m. We'd be asking to start at 6 a.m., again, 2 hours before. And then the way the tide moves around, the next 3 reservations we have the following Saturday, the 25th, Tuesday, the 28th, and Thursday, the 30th, they're all favorable tides. So we wouldn't be working outside of regular hours.
So, sorry, I'm just trying to, for the public to understand it for us, like around how many times this month would it be in that time frame? Would the trucks be going from 10 p.m. to, 7, 8 a.m.?
So between now and the end of the month, it'd be 2 occasions.
2 occasions, okay. That's helpful. And in October, 2 to 5, 3 to 5?
I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I'd imagine it'd be similar numbers looking at the tide charts.
Okay. That's helpful. And then can you also explain for just in layman's terms, why do we need this? Like you can't go into low tide because the barge can't get in, right? So
correct, because there's not enough water at the dock for the loaded barge to float safely.
And is this in perpetuity, or is this until things get dredged?
I think yeah, until it gets dredged, and I direct that question to the steamship.
Okay, so if it is dredged, then sorry, I don't want you to feel like you're on trial here, but just trying to get everybody to understand. If it's dredged, then we would not need this.
Correct.
Okay. All right, Bob Davis from the steamship.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so the issue has been off the face of the pier there. We did have an emergency dredge that we did this past fall to bring it down to, I think it was 15 feet of water. So we have been working with engineering firm to get our application. Actually, our application is into the Corps of Engineers for a dredging permit. This still will have to come before COMCOM as well to do a more extensive dredge in that area. Once the permits are done, then we'll have to bid that out. So, and then we'll potentially be coming into some time of year restrictions in terms of when the dredging can be done. At this point, I would anticipate that we wouldn't be in a position to be even putting this out to bid for at least another 2 months.
So 2 months before it goes out to bid, and then there's more time after that, right?
Yep, exactly.
And can that be done in the winter? Is there a seasonality issue to that, Bob?
Yeah, we haven't had to dredge other than an emergency dredge over Nantucket in so long. I know at our other facilities, we do have issues in terms of the flounder in the area. And so like typically, for instance, in Woods Hole, we have to get our some of our work done before January 15th in order to be, because then it closes down. We can't do any of that type of work until the spring again. So.
Okay, thank you,
And
Bob.
that'll be one of the things that will be coming to for, to COMCOM about to be getting, what their requirements will be in that regard.
Okay, Rob, did you have anything to add? Okay, any questions or comments from the board? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I think some of it, I did talk with Elaine Mooney, our terminal manager, regarding this, and maybe some of this we would actually prefer that if there's some opportunities, we have some openings where there is no barges on other days, that we'll try to work with Toscana and Shane to see if those are opportunities instead of off hours. We have crews that stay on board the vessel at night and sleep, and they need to get their rest period. Otherwise, it could impact the service the next morning if they haven't gotten their required sleep period. So, but we'll try to work with them.
Thank you, Bob. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, well, everybody's thinking. Mary Longacre.
Thank you, Jason. So we did do an emergency dredging project, or I should say the steamship did the project last fall. How long was that intended to have an impact, and why wasn't that sufficient if that answer is known? And then second, I would assume that Toscana also has the option of not loading the barge as heavily, although I'm sure that that's less economically desirable. But just wanted to point out there is another option, as well as Bob's suggestion of rescheduling the trips. So if you can answer the question about why the dredging that was done last year was not sufficient for the long term, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Bob?
So in that regard, it was an emergency permit that we received from the Corps, and we were limited on how much material we could take out. At the time, we thought it'd be sufficient to get to the point where we were able to complete the full dredge project, but the permitting of this has taken considerably longer than what we originally had anticipated. What our experience has been with other dredge projects that we've done. We're working with a different engineering firm on this project than we had in the past because the other firm wasn't available at the time. So, we do have people that are working on it that have been, trying to make sure that we keep it moving. I think hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, Bob. Shane, and then Christy.
So I just had one question to ask. In the event that this permit can't get processed for this year's dredging season, would it be possible to do another emergency dredge in order to just get us through to the following dredge season?
Yeah, that was a question that I had to our engineering people, and unfortunately they weren't able to get that answer back to me before today. So it is something that we will consider. It also becomes a budget issue. We had budgeted for this dredge to take place this year. And we're in the process of working on the 2022 operating budget. So we want to get a sense as to whether we're going to be needing to include that in our budget. So.
Thank you, Bob. Christy, and then Dawn.
Thank you, Jason. I know this has come up in the past, and we had a lot of concerns from the community and neighbors about the sound. And especially with the recent noise bylaw that was passed at town meeting and going against that. So hearing from Shane that a lot of this is kind of between 4 and 6 p.m. or sorry, 4 and 6 a.m. I'm just wondering if the request could be adjusted so it's not kind of the 10 p.m. on, and if it's only a couple days a week, and we could review it in 2 months and see how it's going, and then see kind of what the status of the dredging is. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Thank you, Christy. Dawn?
I was having some similar thoughts. Obviously, there's competing interests going on here, and with the amount of activity that's happening on the island, we're going to have more and more of these kind of off-hour requests to get work done for varying different reasons. This is obviously a very specific dredging problem right now, but there are also some benefits to getting things off of the road during peak hours of other traffic. But in the same vein as what Christy was talking about, I thought we could consider a waiver with limitations. I would say nothing on the weekends. And I think that it should be something like allowing it up until 12 o'clock at night and starting at like 5 in the morning, and not allowing this to happen between 12 and 5. I think it's just too disruptive to the residences, both out near Toscana and along the whole truck route. And, maybe something also along the lines of no more than 2 times a week, and just have to somewhat work around that schedule. I don't know if that is something like that sounds reasonable. Obviously, I'm open to further discussion.
Thank you, Dawn. Ken Gullickson?
Yeah, thank you. Kenneth Gullickson. I represent Betsy Sibley and Bob Little, who live on Teesdale Circle, but their property backs up to Hinsdale. So their residence is almost on the line of Hinsdale. And when this happened before, it was extremely disruptive to them in the night and influenced their sleep. And they couldn't sleep, actually. If there's going to be allowed, I would encourage as much restriction as possible, but I think you have to consider, this is going to impact a lot of people and their ability to sleep. And there's a lot of very heavy trucks going back and forth for several hours. I also, maybe somebody can answer this, I don't understand why they need it. The tide comes and goes twice a day. So there's always a high tide, a significant period of higher water during the day, whenever the tide is, whether it might be earlier in the morning or later in the afternoon, but there would be an opportunity to do this during the day, every day. And I don't understand why they can't schedule their barge to arrive at a time of higher tide during the day. And again, as much limitation as possible, but this is going to impact a lot of people. It did impact a lot of people when it happened before. I think they really need to get things straightened out so that they're not coming back every few months saying we need to do it again. We need to do it again. But again, I can't stress enough how disruptive this is to people's sleep. We're talking about very heavy traffic in the wee hours, and we have a bylaw for a purpose. This is one of them. So.
Thank you, Ken. Any other board members?
Jason, can we get a question, through you to Shane about why can't they happen just during the daytime hours? Is there a specific reason? Is it a steamship reason? Is it, what's the
logistics? Yeah.
The basic reasoning behind it is in order to get it, when we're busy, in order to get 3 barges here a week with the turnaround time it takes us to come from New Bedford and back, because it's 50 miles and we make sometimes less than 5 knots. Scheduling an offload in the afternoon doesn't afford the crew time to get back to New Bedford, get fueled up, get ready, get loaded the following day to be back 2 days later. So in effect, it would just limit the amount of business we could do in 1 week.
Thank you, Shane. Dawn?
Is there any conflict with the steamship? I mean, I can't quite imagine you offloading a barge while there are both a slow ferry and a fast ferry loading and unloading. It's pretty congested there already.
Yes, the afternoons do get a little crazy down there, so that does come into a factor.
Okay, I'll give you some of my thoughts. I was on the I guess clarifying question, Shane, did you say possibly twice a month or twice a week from that 10 p.m. to 7 a.m.?
Just looking at what we have for the rest of this month, I would say 2 to 4 times per month.
Okay, so yeah, I heard somebody say twice a week. That's much different than, I would feel better doing something if I knew it was 2 to 3 times a month. However, that we did get, we got a lot of letters. People live on Union Street, Hinsdale, and it is, when you live right there, I think people know they live on a truck route and they get it and they deal with the noise, but they don't expect it. I don't know if it's 40 trips, back and forth, whatever it is, at 2 or 3, 4 a.m. So I understand where they're coming from. I wonder if there is a way to do it, to allow this for 2 months, but not from midnight to 5 a.m. Will that still allow you to get everything in there? And also with what Bob said, working with them to try to sneak another one in, something like that. A compromise. There might be a lot of planning and logistics to be able to answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be agreeable to looking at the tight schedule and giving you a more specific time. Like I think for the next month, a 4:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. waiver would work for us, and then I'd be happy to come back and revisit this at that time if that was agreeable.
What does board thoughts, Christy? Then Matt?
I think that's a good compromise, meet in the middle. I'm okay with that.
Matt?
Yeah, I think that's heading the right direction. Do we have a staff recommendation? I know Erica typically works with this kind of stuff. What does staff think and what are they recommending on this? Do we have that?
We do not have a staff recommendation. This is felt to be a policy issue. We did get a number of citizen concerns.
Right. And that's through Jason. And that's sort of my concern is we do something and then you guys bear the brunt of it. We do something dumb and then you guys answer the phone for 2 weeks. And so that's why I'm saying, I wouldn't mind having, a couple times now at 4:30 or 5 o'clock and then have, staff work with Toscana and with the steamship and come back with a specific other dates. I think that's, we've got to be fair to the neighbors as well.
Yeah, I don't know if it's possible to, how far out you can plan, Shane, but it would be easier for us to say, look, it's 2 times in September at 4:30 a.m. In October, it's up to 4 in this range. I don't think I would, midnight or 11 p.m. to 4:30. There's got to be some kind of range where we got to find some kind of compromise. People had a tough summer, and to be woken up like that, all night, it is an issue. I feel very business friendly, especially during, these times. So it is our purview to I think help businesses where we can, and we also have to, consider the quality of life as well. Where is the board? I'm sorry, go ahead, Shane.
And yeah, I'd be happy to email Erica a projected schedule for the next month. I think we actually did that last year too. So.
Okay. Can we go to the public, Erica? Joshua Sibley Little.
Good evening. I live year round, also on the same road on Hinsdale with my parents. I just wanted to shed some light on previous ways Toscana has negatively impacted my family's quality of life via noise before, during, and after business hours over the past year. First is starting before 7:30 a.m., whether it be their diesel dump trucks or excavators traveling past our residence before 6 a.m. without permitting from the town. And then most important is second is the speed bumps they installed on Hinsdale in front of my parents' house without their consent. And then when my parents voiced their concerns to Toscana about the brutal noises these speed bumps created and how it greatly affected our lives, it was ignored. So granting this request would just be like the cherry on top of the past year's disturbances caused by Toscana, and it would negatively impact my family's quality of life. So please do not grant this request. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Josh. What is the pleasure of the board? Would you like to discuss it more, ask more questions? Is there a motion? Do you want them to come back with specific dates and times, and because tides are predictable? Matt and then Christie?
Yeah, well, I just through you to Shane is, are those speed bumps, could those be addressed? And one of the letters talked about backup alarms, from the neighbors that live nearby. I used to have a backup alarm on one of my bread trucks, and, they could turn it off. Is there a way to, have those not waking people up at 4 or 5 in the morning?
So the speed bumps have been removed from Hinsdale Road. And as far as backup alarms go, I feel like that's a DOT safety issue, that removing those would be not legal.
Thank you. Christie?
Thank you. I was going to make a motion to waive the noise bylaw from 4:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. through the next month, October 15th, and then to come back to the board with a proposed schedule, whether you need it for another month or two, and we can discuss at the October meeting.
For a second for discussion?
I'll second it for discussion, but I'd like to offer an amendment to add a limitation on the number of times, that over the next month it be no more than 4 occasions, and none of them being on a weekend.
I'll accept that.
Okay, so your motion was to only increase the time from 4:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m., nothing after 10 p.m., right, Christie? And
Correct.
Not on weekends, and only 4 for September?
Through October 15th.
Through October 15th, okay. And then anything after that has to come back with either come back or with the schedule, days and times and numbers? Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
With the board, we are in a motion. We do have a resident that lives on the road. Can I take that, or were you in the middle of a motion? I'm not sure what Robert's rules is on that. Erica?
If the motion was seconded, which I think, did Don
Yeah.
second it?
It was.
Then you can continue to have, it's up to you to have board discussion or continue public.
Okay, Don?
I was just going to say, I think that Christie and I could both agree to hold the motion for further public comment.
Sure, okay. Thank you. Bob Little? Can't hear you, Bob. You have 2 hands up, so there might be a technical issue. Eric, can you try the other one? Here, yeah.
Go for it. Is this one working?
Yep, there you go.
Okay. Sorry, I was having trouble with my computer. I just want to point out that anything you do after hours, we will not be sleeping. This is obviously very upsetting. And the fact that you are even discussing having it going on 2 times a week or 4 times a month or whatever, those are evenings when we will not sleep. Those are middle of the night when we won't sleep. And I don't know how you can have that on your conscience. I'm sorry, I'm very upset about this.
So could you state your name for the record? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm Betsy Sibley using Bob Little's computer. Mine wasn't working.
Thank you, Betsy. So the motion is up to 4 times by October 15th. That could be, 2 a month. Dawn?
Just before we do the motion, is it feasible for Toscana to use the path going straight up Old South to Arrowhead rather than down Hinsdale? would that be less disruptive in any way?
I don't believe so. I feel like Hinsdale is the most direct route to our yard, and I mean, there's houses on all those roads, so I feel like it's the path of least resistance.
It's a good question, Don. It could be adding more.
And I really feel like with the speed bumps gone, the noise is going to be quite less than what it was last year too.
Okay. Erica, do you have something?
I just wanted to note that one of the letters that you received, that person actually lives on Arrowhead, not on Hinsdale. So you would be just directing it right to them.
Okay. So it would be great if we're going to authorize it for up to October 15th and only adding that little time frame. And I know it's not little. It's a lot if you live on this route. That maybe it's not used 4 times. Maybe it's used 1. That would be very helpful, especially if the steamship is saying we can move things around. We're going to work with them. Maybe it's 0. I mean, that's what I would encourage, because I don't think, doesn't sound like this board wants to do much more than that. And I think we don't really feel, what I'm just seeing everybody's face, we don't even really feel comfortable doing 4. So I would suggest that you're getting as low as possible. Any other comments, discussion before we take a vote? Okay.
I'll just, a comment. We're going to be back with, if this isn't quiet and doesn't go well, we will be back. And, I feel for the neighbors and I understand the situation. I've got a non-conforming use in with a neighborhood around me, and I have to be, extra careful, so I understand, I understand both sides of it, and I feel for both parties. So so I just, I think if we do it 2 times or 4 times and if there's issues, then we'll certainly have to deal with it.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, ready for a motion by roll call. All those in favor, Don Holgate.
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella.
Aye.
Matt Fee.
Aye.
Jason Bridges, aye. That passes 4-0. And I will, in my agenda meetings, I will try to stay up on this and get reports. So if there's, if I could ask, this isn't an emotion, but Shane, if you could, once if you have more information, and if it is only 1 time, that'd be really nice to know. If you work out something with the steamship, that would be helpful to know.
Okay, I'd be happy to email you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt.
And then I just think the other question is, this is one, we'd like, is there, I guess this is for the steamship, for our reps, or, what is it we can do to, to speed up this situation? This is a bad situation for everybody. That, what is it, is there anything, I guess, is there anything that we can do as a town to, sort of get this dredged and be, and not be facing this?
Yeah, so I think in terms of it, we as I said, we have an engineering firm that's on board to be working on this. We also I tasked our in-house engineering people to assist them on that, because they're more familiar with the dredging applications that we've had to put in at our other locations. So. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to identify, where the holdup is, and at that point, if there's anything that we'll need, we can come back to the select board and see if there's anything in that regard that could be of assistance.
Okay. Anything else from board members? Betsy or Bob, I see your hand's still up. Is that on purpose? If it is, please go ahead, Erica, let them in.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this might be a question through you, Jason, to Shane. But this is only, let me ask this question. How long has your cement plant been in effect? I sort of know the answer because we've been here long before, but Shane, how many years has your cement plant been in effect?
Shane, if you want to answer that question, you can.
Since 2001, I believe.
And this has only been an issue in the last, I'd say, 6 to 12 months. 12 months. Yes, the noise and the Hinsdale use, etc. Yes?
About what are you getting at? I don't usually like two people going back and forth.
Okay, so the short story is up until the last 9 to 12 months, Toscana's sand and gravel depot has been located out off of New South Road on Industrial Parkway. So whenever the barges came in with their loads of materials, which are highly valuable, much needed, we all recognize that, it was never a noise issue except for the folks downtown, immediately downtown near the docks. It was not a noise issue because the trucks would make their way out Milestone to New South to the Industrial Parkway. And it was only since the recent acquisition of the Arrowhead property that created a sand and gravel depot, a non-conforming use in an RC zone, by the way, on Arrowhead. And so the trucks, instead of heading out to the Industrial Parkway, which was Plan A, the original plan, they now head through the Nobodere Farm, Hinsdale, Arrowhead neighborhood, impacting approximately 75 year-round households. And so it's really a serious issue that has breached the local zoning, neighborhood zoning, and has imposed really heavy-duty industrial traffic in an RC zone. That's really the simple story. So when the barge needs to unload in a very tight window of 3 to 6 hours, it wasn't a problem. I never heard about it until last year, this time, when we walked up the road, biked up the road actually, and had a really good conversation with Christina Jellamy and Carl Jellamy about just this matter. And so having to relive that level of audio and vibration and fumes for 4 to 6 hours. It's over the top, guys. So maybe a solution is to return to, it wasn't broken, so don't fix it. A solution to this dilemma might be, since it's going to take a month of Sundays to get it dredged and all the stuff that we've just listened to, which we're all believing, is to take the materials out to Toscana's industrially zoned depot and stockpile the goods there. And then, as they've been doing since, by the way, for the last 20 years, when they need nibbles of sand, gravel, and all the other materials that go together with the cement plant, they fetch the materials as needed. And that worked beautifully for 19 years. It fell apart when decisions were made to try to consolidate their efforts into one simple zone. And the oversight, frankly, and I'll zip it now, but the oversight was a non-conforming use in a residential area. And it particularly irks me when a large part of my focus for the past 25 years is working on affordable housing opportunities for year-rounders here on our island. And I can tell you that about that many years ago, Planning Board, Zoning Board, and Select Board worked strenuously to create the multifamily zones. And our neighborhood was one of the multifamily zones that was selected, thus growing housing opportunities. Well,
Yeah,
no,
I-
it's
we-
sort of
we
like a
have to-
kick in the teeth. But thank you very much. I appreciate it, Jason, for giving me the time. And it's a contradiction in terms, and I would like for Shane and colleagues to kindly review the possibilities of doing their intensive offloading to their original depot out on Industrial Parkway, and then bring the materials in on an as-needed basis. Thank you so
Bob.
kindly. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Bob. Appreciate it. Okay. Shane, maybe you could give us, send some stuff into the town administration, just maybe the board can understand, what changed, Arrowhead, and, go ahead, Shane.
I'd just like to clarify one point there, that nothing has changed in our operation in 20 years. We have always stored our sand and gravel for our concrete plant at the Arrowhead location.
Okay. Thank you, Shane. Okay, we're gonna move on to request for waiver of town noise bylaw from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. for a wedding to be held Saturday, October 16, 2021 at 25 Millbrook Road. We have Marty McGowan here for that. Looks like he stepped away.
Hello.
There he is. Hey, Marty.
Hi. Thank you, everyone. I hope this will be easier than the last one. My daughter's getting married. I want the band to play a little later. Let me know what you'll give me.
That was short and sweet, Marty. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Any thoughts on board members, questions? We'll go to Amy Baxter in a second. Go ahead, Dawn.
So Marty, is this a one-off? This is your daughter, you're not becoming a wedding venue?
Pumpkin Pond Farm, just to be clear, has the right to have 30 events a year. I've had 7 weddings there since 2003. So 20 years, 7 people have decided to get married there, mostly friends. So I guess I'm a venue, but I never really thought of myself that way. But those are, as far as I know, those are the correct allowances for the farm, to my knowledge. I kind of doubt I'm wrong.
Thank you, Marty. Amy, did you want to weigh in at all? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So I saw this request yesterday. As you know, we received a letter, an email, all of us, from some residents in opposition to the request in general. So quickly, my thoughts when I first saw it would be that, number one, we have I would look at it as an entertainment permit and how that would work regardless of if it's commercial or private because of the request. Number one, no licensed facility on the island is allowed to operate entertainment after 1 a.m. So that 2 a.m. shouldn't really, I believe, be allowed to be considered. We have no entertainment permits on this island past 1 a.m. and those are licensed facilities and specific districts for that. So that was my first thought. Secondly, I would ask for specific reasoning for waivers of a bylaw. What specific circumstances exist that require entertainment until a later time in a residential neighborhood? We need to give the select board specific considerations for you to consider an exception. I don't think I have to inform anyone that we have hundreds of people getting married this month alone, especially this year. People are getting married every space, every time they can. So we need to really set a reasoning for why this request is needed past this. Again, hundreds of other weddings. Otherwise, it's a wide open precedent. Next, we would also ask for a butter notification like we did for most of these types of things. When you waive a bylaw, you should have some sort of notification, not just calling up Johnny next door saying, are you okay with this? Having some sort of written notification. We would prefer it before. Again, you can make that decision whether it's after. And then lastly, as you mentioned, as far as it being a commercial facility, obviously this is a private event for a family member, so we wouldn't permit it as we would If this facility is renting out, it becomes a commercial facility. It has had events in the past. So because of that as well, you have to consider that any decision you make tonight to extend even for one event sets a precedent for all future permits that they can draw on. So I would ask you to consider again how you would license this as an event facility. The 30 events a year thing, I'm going to have to lift that one up. That might be a planning board situation, so I'll look that up myself. But I really did have great concern of this because knowing we deflect a lot of these and that sort of situation for those wanting a later date, go to licensed facilities. Obviously, it's next month. It's too close to do that, but that is what I would kind of think about any request like this that comes in. So if any questions I can take.
Thank you, Amy.
Mhm.
Thoughts, comments on the board? Dawn and Christy?
I mean, I'm really concerned about the precedent this sets, and it is very much in a significantly residential neighborhood. With it, what I would consider doing with it being a Saturday night, I would consider something like 11 p.m. No, I mean 2 a.m. is not even in the realm of something we could do. But it would have to be kind of. I would be very concerned about it happening 30 times a year. So that's where the precedent issue comes in. I mean, I don't know if, I know this is Marty's one and only daughter, so maybe that could be a criteria that this is very much a one-time thing. But that's a slippery slope too.
Christy?
Thank you, Jason. I think it's just a really slippery slope. I think that we do one extension here and everybody else is going to start coming for an 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, 2 a.m. I don't think that this is something that I could get behind and approve. And as much as I would have loved for my wedding to go longer, I just don't think that we can set that policy.
Thank you, Christy. I like Marty a lot and I love your family. And if I had a daughter get married, I'd be asking for 4 a.m. So I get it. And but I'm not for anything after 10 p.m. Any other thoughts? Matt? Motion?
Well, I'm sort of with Dawn. It's going to 11 since it's a private family event and it's not a commercial event, you know, or music off at 10:30 or, you know, what. So you know, I could see doing a little bit, but I agree it shouldn't be going till 2 in the morning. Not a chance.
Is there a motion? Dawn?
I mean, I'll try it, but it sounds like we're split. I would make a motion for this one-time immediate family event on a Saturday night to be allowed for the music to end at 11.
And I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Dawn Holgate?
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella?
No.
Matt Fee?
Aye.
Jason Bridges? No. Sorry, it is split vote, so that the motion does not go further. So we're still go for another motion.
I'll make a motion to deny the request.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right.
I know where it's going, so.
Yeah, all those in favor by roll call. Christy?
Thank you.
Dawn?
No.
Matt?
Aye.
Jason, aye. So that motion to deny the request passes 3-1. Sorry, Marty. Okay, moving on to request for a waiver of sewer connection permit fee for Covenant lots located at 3 Evergreen Way. We have Tucker Holland here to walk us through that.
And I'm going to be recusing.
Okay, thank you, Kristen.
Hi, hopefully this short and sweet. This is a request in accordance with the board sewer waiver policy for covenant properties. The Samuels are requesting a waiver of the connection fee for the lot which they recently purchased at 3 Evergreen Way. Again, all the documentation for this is included in the packet, and your approval of this would be consistent with your past practice.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor? By roll call, Matt Fee,
Aye.
Don Hill Holgate,
Aye.
Jason Brady's aye. That passes 3-0. Thank you, Tucker.
Thank you.
Next up is Affordable Housing Trust. Request for approval of funding to support house move to 46 Oklahoma Ave for housing in Nantucket to create subsidized housing inventory shy eligible units. Ann.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll just briefly introduce this. As you mentioned, Ann Cuspa from Housing Nantucket is here, and she's going to talk about the project. I just wanted to let the board know that the trust voted at its most recent meeting to unanimously recommend to you all financial support for this project up to $300,000. As you know, anything over $100,000 recommended by the trust comes to you all for approval. This is an exciting project, which I'll let Ann tell you the details about. But we hope that you will support the trust request for approval for this transaction, particularly as the House moved today. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ann Cuspa, Executive Director of Housing Nantucket, and thank you for that introduction, Tucker, and thank you for hearing our request. This is an amazing project that we are so excited about. A dwelling was offered to us by homeowners Jamie and Elise Leventhal. So the structure was donated to us. Today we moved it from their property at 24 Woodbine over to our property at 46 Arkawa Ave, right by the lifeguard housing. And everything went off without a hitch. It's a 3-bedroom home in amazing condition. We really don't need to do much to the interior. The exterior got a bit beat up on the way down the road, I have to admit, but that's okay. It's just some little slight patching up, and we did have that in our budget. So we're grateful to the Affordable Housing Trust for reviewing the application, as well as the CPC, who is also supporting the project. We requested some money from the hospital's grant, and then also our private fundraising, because it takes a village, and we really hope that you'll approve this request as well. The unit, when it's completed, which we expect to have it done certainly by May, it will be eligible for the subsidized housing inventory for the town, so it will contribute against friendly 40B development, as well as fulfill our requirements under Chapter 40B law. So lots of boxes are checked with this one. We don't have a lot of 3 bedrooms, and they are in great demand. So that's yet another reason why we're super excited about this. And anyone who wants to see some amazing images can check us out on Instagram. Nantucket Current also gave us a shout out, and they had their photographer over there too. So you'll see lots of cool pics, and then follow it along over these next couple months as we finish it up. So I thank you all for listening, and I'll answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ann. Sounds like a great opportunity. Tucker?
I just was going to add that this was a particularly unique situation given the location of the donator lot to where it actually is going and will reside. The house itself, Ann touched on, was in like excellent condition for a house move. And as well, this project is intended to incorporate solar aspect, so greater energy efficiency. It really, as Ann said, checks a lot of boxes.
Yep, the HDC approved the solar on there, and we're working with ActSmart to get some solar on there so that the tenants can have access to clean energy, as well as stabilize and lower the utility costs for the structure.
It sounds great. It puts a family in a house, and it's shy eligible, so it's wonderful. Great work. Any other comments? Is there a motion?
To approve.
Thank you, Christy.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Don Holgate,
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
Jason Bridges, aye. Passes 4-0. Great work, Ann. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you so
Tucker.
much. We really appreciate it.
Okay, next up is applicant introduction review of applications for roads and right-of-way committee. And so we have one seat available, and we have 4 applicants. Those applicants are David Wunderlich, Campbell Sutton, Bruce Watts, and Rob Rainey. And Erica, tell if I'm wrong. I think candidates can speak tonight before we vote. Is that correct?
Correct, yes. We would encourage the candidates to review their applications and speak on their behalves. I see we've got Rob Raney in attendance as a panelist. Campbell Sutton is an attendee. I know that David Wunderlich did email me and say that he had a conflict and wasn't sure if he was going to be able to make it.
Okay. Would you like to speak? And then we would go to Campbell Sutton after that, if you'd like to.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I know you guys are anxious to fill committees and boards and stuff, and I noticed that this one, the last I looked, had a vacancy. And being the town assessor, I thought that this might be a good committee for somebody in my position to be on, so I applied. However, I didn't know that other people had applied also, so if somebody else is better qualified than I am, certainly go that way. I thought it would be a good.
Thank you, Rob. Any questions or comments for Rob from the board? Don't see any. Campbell Sutton, if you'd like to speak, you can. You just raise your hand. If not, oh, there you go.
Okay, did that work?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. So yeah, I sort of had the previous applicants, same idea. I noticed that there wasn't anyone applying, but I thought I had missed the application date. So then when I heard that it was open again, I thought, oh, well, I'll throw my name in the ring. I am on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Group, and I thought this would complement that if it meets again. And I'm just very interested in keeping these access to the beach and all of our public properties open and in good condition. I know some of them are open, but you have to be able-bodied, very able-bodied to utilize them. And I'd like to see more attention put to keeping the condition for greater public use in terms of age and able-bodiedness. So I'll take any questions if there are any.
Any comments, questions for Campbell? I don't see any, Campbell. Thank you.
Hey, thanks.
Okay, I think now is the time that we send the email to Erica.
Yes, please.
Then Erica will read them off when she has them. And Erica, we have to we have to confirm, correct?
Yes. And I just received another email from David Wunderlich, just so you know. He said that he had an issue. Okay, so Ms. Hill Holgate, please confirm your vote is for Rob Raney.
Correct.
Chair Bridges, Rob Raney.
Correct.
Ms. Ferrantella, David Wunderlich.
Correct.
And Mr. Fee, Rob Raney.
Correct.
So that is a 3-1 vote, Rob Raney.
All right, thank you guys. Thank you, Erica. We're gonna move on to the public hearing. So the transfer of annual all alcohol beverage package store license from Buttonell Package Inc., Hatches Package Store, Judith Brunel, manager at Hatches, for premises located at 129 Orange Street. Amy, are you walking us through this?
Yes,
Recusing.
thank you.
I'm sorry, Christy. Oh, you're recusing?
They were recusing.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to just do a brief overview, and then you can speak to the applicants. As you mentioned, a liquor license application transfer for Hatches on Orange Street there. Oops, my AIS is wrong, sorry. We've done a couple of these. This is a package store license. The operations are under the transfer application are still valued with the original LLC in charge until this does go through. The applicant is agreeing in these terms to take on the license with all current conditions and responsible for any previous violations or outstanding debts, things of that sort. The history of the license traveling with the new LLC. This license does not have a history of violations in Nantucket, and everything is in compliance. They've submitted all that, so that's good. Again, I want to address the quota as well. This is a Section 15 package store license. As you know, our annual licenses in this category, we are over by 2 licenses, meaning that we would be unable to issue any new licenses in this category until 3 are surrendered. That resets every 10 years in response to the census. At the moment, based on the number we have seen from the census, it would not change our number, but that has to be certified by the state officially. But as of right now, a transfer is the only option for an annual all alcohol package store license. Couple other things, hours, again, they choose the hours of sale on a Sunday, so long as it does not commence before 10 a.m. and conclude no later than 11 p.m. You have approved 10 a.m. on a Sunday prior on this license. Again, it's requested to remain the same. And then one other note I'd like to make, and again, we can address this when you make the motion. One other thing that is slightly different in this application for the transfer is you will need to make an approval for the pledge of a license. And I can certainly have the applicant explain what that is, but basically in Massachusetts, the holder of a liquor license can pledge the license to secure a loan per MGL 138 section 23. And you can certainly ask questions of the applicant on that. I just want to make sure that when we get to the motion, we're approving or considering the transfer of this license, the liquor license manager, and approval of pledge of the license. Even though they have conformed to all the requirements by the state, you must make that decision as well as the ABCC. So I will go for any questions, or you can speak to the applicant.
So Amy, so the motion needs to be just the transfer of the license and a pledge of the license. That's how it'd be worded.
Correct. So your transfer of the annual all alcohol section 15 package store license from, as you mentioned, Buttonell Package Inc. to Hatches Package LLC with Robert Grangrade. Hopefully I said that correctly, as liquor license manager. And we approve the pledge of this license as presented.
Okay. Ken, are you representing someone?
Yeah, I represent the applicant.
Okay.
So the applicant is Hatches Package LLC. And Todd Bowling is the manager of the LLC. He's online, and I believe Bob, who would be the manager of the actual store. It's not the same thing. It's the same term, but it's a different thing. I think they're together. They're not with me, but I believe they're together if you have any questions. Bob has worked at Hatches since 1993, I think, when he was still a teenager. He worked at the side of the gas pumps. He would be managing the store. Judy Brownell is the current manager, but she's selling the business as well as the real estate. Just so there's no confusion on the pledge, they're be buying the business, and there would be financing in connection with that, and it would be part of a global financing. It's not like a separate thing involving the license. It would be basically all of the assets of the LLC would be pledged to the bank. So if the bank for some reason had to call the loan, that would be some collateral. Of course, it would still be subject to the board's approval to transfer it, but something that the bank could potentially take over, or whoever took over at the if there was a sale. So that I'm glad to answer any questions, or Todd's available if you have any questions. But essentially, I don't think anybody will notice any difference if this is approved. Employees will stay the same location, basically the same name. No real change except for the ownership, the underlying ownership.
Thank you, Ken. Any comments from the board? Don, you have your hand up?
I was going to ask if the pledge meant like it was collateral, like if they foreclosed on the loan, but that was already answered.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I don't think we've heard that before in my time on the board specifically. But no questions.
Okay. Matt?
Yeah, move approval and allow it to be pledged.
Oh, it's a public hearing, so I got to make sure there's nobody from the public who'd like to speak on this. Make sure there's no hands being raised. I'm not seeing any. So we'll close the public hearing. Sorry,
I'll second Matt's motion.
Okay. And is it, Amy, you're okay with Matt made the motion of everything that you said? We're good?
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. All those in favor, Matt Fee?
Aye.
Don Holgate?
Aye.
Jason Bridges, aye. That passes 3-0.
Thank you,
everyone. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Okay, going over to the town manager's report. Over to you, Libby.
Thank you. So I am going to review with you the 2022 annual town meeting and annual town election timeline. Erica, can you pull it up? Now I'm going to show you something online, but I can share my screen for that. Great, thank you. So there may be, as you know, we progress here, some minor adjustments to this as we go, but really the main thing is it's a timeline that's pretty consistent with prior year timelines. The real, I guess, difference, if there really is one, is that we've moved the town meeting out, and the board previously voted to schedule the town meeting for Monday, May 2nd. I think it's Monday, May 2nd. That's about a month later than we have traditionally done it, with, of course, the obvious exceptions of 2020 and 2021. And I think we are going to give that a try. It gives us a little bit more time, and maybe we'll have better turnout at that time. So I just wanted to take you through this a bit. We have, of course, already started with some of the activities that will lead up to town meeting, including the capital program committee meetings with fiscal 23 and out year requests. So those are all in green. Capcom meetings are all listed in green. Blue is specific to budget items, and then the regular black print is just normal town meeting stuff. So proceeding out next week, you, oh, see, I already have to change something. The ad hoc budget work group, sorry, Erica, this changed today. That group is comprised of the chairs and vice chairs of select board, school committee, and finance committee, as well as the town manager, finance director, and school superintendent. And we are meeting about the preliminary fiscal 23 budget projections next Tuesday, but it's not at 1 anymore. It's later. I forget what time it is. I think it's at 4. Then we will review those same projections with the board at your meeting next week, along with fiscal 23 preliminary capital project requests. And then we just continue on with normal stuff. Budget instructions get issued to the departments at the end of next week. We will begin advertising for citizen warrant article submittals. We have the town council warrant article reviews scheduled. Those will be on Zoom again. The board will start reviewing potential articles. I think you had some discussion last week about this, but you'll continue doing that around October 13th. Again, these dates may be a little bit adjusted. Budget reviews and submittals will start occurring in mid-October. You can go down a bit. And those continue until mid-November, and that ends with town administration recommendations on the fiscal 23 budget currently scheduled for the board's meeting of December 8th. The warrant articles are due Monday, November 15th. They will then go to town council, and any zoning articles will go to planning, and they'll all get reviewed. And FinCom will start looking at citizen warrant articles on December 9th. And then, all bunch of normal stuff happens throughout December, January, and keep going down a bit. February. So getting into the sort of home stretch, school vacation week this year starts February 28th. And there will be a lot of activity right before that with FinCom and motion adoptions. I should mention the board is scheduled to adopt the warrant and any ballot questions on Wednesday, January 26th. So burn that date into your mind. And that is board articles and really we ought to know them well ahead of that, so that a couple weeks ahead of that, we're not struggling to get warrant articles ready. And then FinCom, keep going down a bit, is currently scheduled to adopt the warrant on, last year, if you recall, we had a joint meeting with FinCom, Planning Board, and Select Board to review final motions from FinCom and Planning Board. And I think that worked out pretty well. So I've scheduled that in again. And you all like to have some time between the final motions adopted by those two groups and the time when you all might adopt any comments. So you do have a bit of time there. The warrant will need to get to the printer the week of March 28th, and then it will get mailed to all voters mid-April-ish. The FinCom has been scheduling an ATM info session just before town meeting, so that is also scheduled. Then they'll have a meeting to review technical amendments, and the moderator's pre-annual town meeting conference is currently scheduled for Thursday, April 28th at 2, and town meeting would start on Monday, May 2nd. And actually, I think we may have said 5:30, but for some reason I put 5 in there. I have to go back in my notes on that. And then potentially, depending on how long it would be, could proceed through that week. And then the annual town election would be on Tuesday, May 10th. And then I've just got some notes down below there that are the usual notes about holidays and things like that. I did want, and voter registration deadlines and things, elected position nomination papers, that's all to be determined at this point. And I wanted to quickly see if I could share my screen for a moment to show you the updated guide to preparing a citizen warrant article. So can you all see that? Yep. Okay. So let me just show you how to get there. If people go to the town webpage and go to town meetings, guide to preparing a citizen warrant article for town meeting. We've just updated this, and it contains a lot of information about how you would prepare a warrant article. There's some things to remember. When you feel your article is ready to be submitted, do some double checking. And then there's a general information section about warrant articles. I encourage everybody who's considering a citizen warrant article to please thoroughly review this guide. So there you go. It's on the town website. And that is basically it. So typically, unless you all have any major issues with the timeline, you would vote to endorse it, and we will get it circulated and posted online and updated as needed as we proceed.
Is there a select board meeting on May 4th on that Wednesday of town meeting?
We typically do not have a select board meeting that day.
Just in case town meeting goes over?
Yes.
Okay. Just one comment. Whenever I see this timeline, it just reinforces how much work goes into our budgets and Capcom and FinCom and the town departments and the finance department and town administration and all the work that goes into that leads up to town meeting. Take away the citizen warrant articles, but just the budget article, 8, 10, and it's hard to put it in words how much work is done. But not that we need to do this, but maybe it's a WPI project of how many man hours, people hours go into a town meeting. These things be interesting from August 15th to, May 2nd. That's, I think people need to understand, not that they need to just have a pass through when it gets to town meeting, but just a more understanding of how many times things have been vetted and how many times things have been taken off or whittled down or, questioned 100 times. Just my thoughts.
Thank you. I would guesstimate that there, I don't know the exact number, hundreds of hours go into this.
Well, thousands, if you think of FinCom meetings and all the public that goes to that, and
True.
I mean,
Thousands.
it's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot of effort.
Yeah.
Questions, pleasure of the board?
Do we make a motion to adopt the timeline?
Second.
All those in favor by roll call? Don?
Aye.
Christie?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Jason, aye. That passes 4-0. Thank you, Libby.
Thank you, guys.
And on the select board reports and comments, any committee reports or comments? Matt, you itching to tell us something?
I don't know.
Christie, go ahead.
I was thinking I should have done this during public comment, but Habitat for Humanity Nantucket put out an email today that they're accepting applications for 3 of their new homes. They're going to be shy listed. So just wanted to get the word out that they're now accepting applications.
Thank you, Christie. Anybody else? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Don Holgate,
Aye.
Christie Ferrantella,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
Jason Bridges, aye. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, NCTV 18.